Hello and welcome to Handle with Care, the podcast where we talk honestly about the realities of modern commerce, from growth and delivery to the decisions that really shape e-commerce behind the scenes. I'm Sambi and today I'm joined by Steve Penistone, owner of High Street Brands for Less. Now, Steve has built a fast moving founder led retail business that operates across multiple international markets. And today we're going to talk about what international growth actually looks like when you strip away the gloss, strip away the hype. Steve, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, lovely to be here.
Steve, when people hear about international retail, they often picture big corporate teams, huge infrastructure. But your business, I must say, from what I've seen, is very much founder led. How much of the brand, High Street Brands for Less, still feels like you?
Well, I would say it still feels very much like me. We're by no means a big corporate team. I would class us as a small business in the scheme of things, with a turnover approaching £1 million. So our business was actually founded in 2011 after a period of illness. The business was, for me, a very happy accident. My background was in financial services, so I worked within the NatWest Group, later Santander, and finally with a company called Open and Direct in Northern Ireland. My illness meant I was not able to work for a few years, and so I started a business from home as my health improved. So it was never intended to grow as it did, and in 2014 I decided to focus on High Street Brands for Less rather than go back to the career that I'd been trained in. So you couldn't really get two more diametrically opposed businesses, one where the transactions were often in the millions, to one where we're selling cosmetics with a retail price of under £10. So we're now a team of four, with one of our team having been with us since 2014. So I would say international retail is nothing to be daunted by. It's open to any business, large or small, and all you need is the right systems in place and the right partner to deliver your international promises to your customers.
Wow, I really love that story, and we'll come to some of these bits later because I want to know more from you. But I think what you've said immediately challenges one of the biggest myths around international growth. There's this assumption that expanding beyond borders means losing the personality of the business. But what you've just said, I think, describes quite the opposite. For people who are listening who don't know about the business yet, I know you've told us a bit, but how do you explain High Street Brands for Less in a couple of sentences?
Right, well, I would say, our mission is really to help women look and feel their best for the lowest possible price. We sell products that are currently available in the shops, but at a fraction of the cost. But we're also able to access stock that's no longer available in the shops through our network of, say, 25 plus suppliers now. So this is one of our unique selling points. And if you imagine if you're looking in Boots, for example, for your favourite lipstick, but it's no longer available, the range that you used to buy has been discontinued, for example, we're often able to source that stock and deliver it to our customers. So internationally, the supply of certain brands in certain countries is very limited or comes at a significant cost. So we can deliver many products, even to Australia, for example, cheaper, including the postage, than customers can source them in their own country. And that makes our business work, and that's why international retail is so important to our business.
Oh, that's such a clear example you've just shared about international growth being driven by real customer need. You're not just entering markets to plant flags across the globe, and that distinction, I think, is really important, right, as we get deeper into this conversation. Let's talk about growth, Steve. At what point did international sales move from being nice to have to becoming strategically important for you?
Okay, well, we started our international journey in 2013. Largely at the time we were selling via eBay and listing directly on their European, Canadian, US and Australian sites. We partnered with a company called Visualsoft in 2014, and that gave us access to integrations with Amazon, and then soon after that with Amazon Europe. In later years, we also partnered with Frugo, and that gave us access to over another 40 countries to sell. So international business started off being a nice to have, but very soon it became strategically important to our business. If you take the seasonality of products, for example, in the UK in December, everyone wants lip balms, foundations, bronzers. You don't tend to sell so much of sun cream or SPF-based products. But you introduce Australia in December, it's the middle of summer over there, and by all accounts it's about 50 degrees, isn't it? And there's a huge demand for some products. So selling internationally helps not only by widening your audience of available buyers, but also by ensuring that all of your product range sells consistently throughout the seasons. Now, what that means for us is that we need less warehouse space and we can maintain a higher stock turn rate. I mean, we're very lucky in the UK. We've got access to a tremendous amount of brands, fantastic distribution. We're so lucky in having so much choice. But that's not the same in many countries around the world, as the products that everyone wants can be quite difficult to source. So this also makes the UK market very price competitive, that can negatively impact our margins. But that's not the same in many of our international markets. We can therefore enjoy higher margins internationally, and our average order values are significantly higher with our international customers than our domestic ones. Some of our customers use us as a wholesaler sometimes when we're really a retail business. So we can often get orders for 20 or 30 of the same lipstick from an international buyer who are looking to sell them on, but they're paying us at retail prices for it, which obviously enhances our margins. We get bigger orders. But this happens a lot less frequently in our domestic market. And I think also if you look at a high street retailer, they might have a branch in one town and possibly 4 others in the same county. So they've got 5 shop windows for their products. If they sell online too in the UK, then that opens another market for them. But selling internationally gives us more shop windows than you can count, and a customer base, quite frankly, that's quite difficult to comprehend.
What really stands out for me there is how quickly international stopped being an experiment for you and started influencing core decisions. Some of the things you've said about stock, seasonality in places like Australia, and how it influences purchase decisions. That's often, I think, the moment when businesses should realize that this isn't, like we've emphasized before, isn't it about ticking off countries? It's about reshaping how the business actually works at the core to scale internationally. For you, Steve, when you're assessing a new international market, what are the things you look at before deciding, is this really worth pursuing?
Okay, well, I would think the first thing that we would look at is the availability of integrations to help manage the flow and execution of our orders. We're a very high volume and relatively low margin business, so automation of previously complex tasks is a necessity really in order to manage our costs and deliver the best value to our customers. We also need to understand things like local language requirements, customs, duties, tax implications, any platform, and by this I mean Amazon, eBay, etc. restrictions. How do we manage currency conversions? Do we have access to the preferred payment methods in a particular country, for example? And I think probably from a delivery perspective, it's things like whether we can offer a duty-paid postage solution, which carriers will support a particular territory, the average delivery times, availability of really first-class tracking information. And again, that's really why we turn to GFS to help us manage our international operation.
So there's actually so much groundwork that has to happen before a customer even places an order, be it system integrations, understanding duties, tracking, payments. It's, I think, what would be the unglamorous part of growth, but it's what makes the difference between expansion that holds and expansion that will eventually break under pressure, I guess. My next question, Steve, for you, and I think it's going to be a hard relate and a raw wound for a lot of businesses, because we're obviously operating in a pretty fluid global environment at the moment, given how tariffs and trade regulations stand today. How are you keeping international growth on the table when the rules of the game are changing and changing so frequently?
Okay, well, I think the first thing to think of is that our buyers still want to buy our products, and we still want to sell our products for the reasons we've outlined earlier. Our buyers are probably well versed in the latest changes to tariffs or trade regulations, and they probably don't really care. They just want the product that they need in a timely manner, and they want the confidence that their purchase will be delivered hassle-free, and to be able to see the progress of their order as it travels and navigates its way towards them. I mean, you're right, the tariff situation is fluid, it's dynamic, and it's received an awful lot of media focus in recent months. But this shouldn't really be a barrier to doing business. It's about finding a solution that delivers our promises to our customers. We work very closely with our account manager at GFS to help navigate these obstacles in an ever-changing environment, really. And we work on delivering new or updated shipping solutions to fulfill our customers' expectations and our cost management objectives. So international business accounts are about a third of what we do. It's very important to us, and it's important to choose the right provider in managing your fulfillment promises really to your customers. So again, that's really why we chose GFS.
You've hit the nail on the head there, Steve, because I think it's difficult to look at it this way, that customers don't experience regulation, but what they do experience is delivery. And the role of the retailer, or rather the duty of the retailer, is to absorb that complexity so the customer doesn't have to think about borders or tariff or any trade headlines for that matter. That sort of beautifully segues into my next question. Let's shift to the customer side of things. From your experience, how do international customer expectations differ from your UK customers, especially when it comes to things like delivery and service?
Okay, well, I don't think prime shipping has helped a great deal, but generally our experience has been that international customers are prepared to wait longer than domestic ones, and I think the important thing to do is to set expectations. So if you know that your delivery expectation is going to be sort of like 3 to 5 days, then what we would do is advertise a 5 to 10 day delivery. And that way, if there are any logistical issues that don't result, it doesn't result in an unhappy customer. At that point, the customer receives the item ahead of schedule and is delighted, which is what we're trying to achieve. And I say having a trackable solution is an absolute must. The customer is more likely to remain happy if they can see the progress of their parcel. And it's really about giving the customer confidence in what you're offering them.
I'm putting on my customer hat now as you're saying those things, and thinking of times when I've shopped on international sites, and all I really want at the end of the day is clarity. If expectations are set properly, like you said, distance becomes much less of a barrier. Do you think delivery expectations have become more global in that sense overall, because you've spoken about prime shipping, or are there still some local differences that are very real on ground?
Yeah, I mean, I would say our experience is that the more developed economies expect more, and I think that's probably based on the expectations that they have on their own domestic services. So I would say that really.
And how big a role does the delivery experience play in driving repeat purchase, especially for these international orders?
Well, I would say this is absolutely crucial. The customer wants the product they've ordered at the price they want to pay for it, delivered when they expect it, and really arriving in pristine condition. And I think if you can manage those expectations or over-deliver on those, then really why would your customer go anywhere else? I mean, we're very fortunate in our business to have a very high number of repeat customers, and that's both domestically and internationally.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear, and very heartening to hear, because I think international growth, you would agree with me, is only sustainable when customers come back, not when they just try you once.
Absolutely. Well, I think that making those customers come back is sometimes even more important than some of our domestic ones, because, as I mentioned before to you, it's our margins are significantly higher internationally. So the more we can do to keep those customers that bring us in an awful lot more profit per transaction, then the better it is for our business.
Of course, that makes perfect commercial sense. I want to switch to talking about operations. If you look internally into your operations, what's been the most useful change you've made in the last few years?
Well, I think probably as you'd expect me to say, moving our international fulfillment to GFS is probably the biggest useful change we've made. Our systems are all programmed up with the relevant customers information for each product, and that means that we can produce our package labels in bulk at the touch of a button. So all we have to do really is sort our orders into European or international groups, choose the relevant postage service, and hey presto, all the labels fly out the printer. So it's a very, very easy solution. There's no technical or customs knowledge required, and a non-technical member of our team can produce international orders with ease and without any margin for error. So this enhances the speed and accuracy, and which obviously lowers our costs.
I must say I am chuffed to know that because I do genuinely think GFS protects the business as it grows, and international volume growth doesn't suddenly become a problem when you have to scale. That's because the systems and integrations are already doing the heavy lifting much before you make that decision. Now, Steve, we come to my favorite child of this podcast. It's called Handle with Care, the lighter side. And as the name suggests, I like to keep this section a bit lighter. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Feel free to have a little think. What's one assumption about international retail that's completely wrong? In fact, you would say it's borderline bizarre.
Okay, well, probably that it's complex. It really isn't, and it certainly shouldn't be. We generally process our international orders as easy as we process our domestic ones. I think the other one is that Google Translate is the oracle of all things translation. Whilst we're very successful at selling to our customers in Europe and beyond, and are often commended by our customers for the speed in which their questions are responded to, I'd never claim to be a proficient linguist. Enter Google Translate, it just doesn't always get it right, and we've had some quite interesting emails from customers. No doubt the original question was well written, well intended, but the output from Google Translate has often made our team here back in the office rather red-faced with embarrassment. I'm just hoping it does a better job of translating our reply emails into the customer's language.
I must say I'm tempted to ask if I can see some screenshots later, but I think, yes, technology, as helpful as it is, manages to keep us humble and on our feet all the time.
Indeed.
But one more question on this section is, what's one thing about the international market that took you completely by surprise?
Okay, well, in the UK, we're mandated by certain of our channel partners to answer emails within 24 hours, and that means answering emails on bank holidays, which includes Christmas Day and Boxing Day. That's just part of running our business. You'd not expect, however, to receive emails on Christmas Day, for example, asking about a particular shade of lipstick or to inquire when an order might be delivered. And I was very surprised that our email traffic on bank holidays, especially Christmas, didn't really slow as significantly as expected. We didn't get so many emails from our domestic customers, but our international ones continued to message us. And it was when I wished one of our customers in Israel a very happy Christmas and got a beautiful reply back that I realised that not everyone celebrates Christmas.
Okay, that is fascinating to know. I think it makes us culturally more rich. So always there's no age or time to learn, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Steve, I know you're a busy man and I promise to keep this short, but I can't let you go without asking you a few questions, which will be, I think, more of you heard it first on Handle with Care. So if you had to start all over again, what's the one thing you would do sooner? And because we're talking about international, specifically in terms of international growth, what's this one thing you would do sooner?
Yeah, I mean, there's not an awful lot I would change. We would have started selling internationally sooner. I mean, the world is your oyster, as they say. I would probably have moved to a duties paid solution sooner. This takes away any of the points of friction in the process, and would probably have moved to a fully tracked solution earlier too, despite the increased in cost of using that for the same reason. Reasons behind that being is that happy customers come back and spend more, and they don't tie your customer services team up answering emails.
I think there's going to be more conversation around this when you're on the webinar panel next month. So anyone who'd like to hear more from Steve or ask him questions about international growth, Steve is going to be on the panel of a Channel X webinar next month on where's left to grow. So we'll add the link in the description so you can pick up and register there. And what you've said actually captures the heart of this conversation, Steve. And I think when it comes to international growth, it works best when built early rather than layered on later. But having said that, it's never too late to scale. One more question, please. What's next for High Street Brands for Less? What's coming up in the future?
Well, we'll continue to progress with our international expansion, navigating our way through the dynamic changes in regulations and tariffs. And so we can do that as we've got great confidence in our partner GFS in tailoring our products to match an ever-changing landscape. We'll look to add new channel partners to our portfolio to increase our potential customer base, and specifically look at those with international exposure, as this is where the profit margins are greatest, really. We'll also be broadening our product range with new brands and complementary ranges to try and increase our average order values and appeal really to a more diverse customer base. So these are quite exciting times.
Oh, that's great to hear, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of that. Steve, thank you so much for such an honest, grounded look at what international growth really involves. This has been a brilliant reminder that it's not just about planting flags, it's about building something that genuinely works across borders, operationally, financially, and as you've reminded us, culturally as well. Thank you so much for joining me on Handle with Care.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone listening. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your network. And stay tuned for more conversations that unpack the human side of delivery. Until next time, I'm Sambi, and this is Handle with Care.